And we're go. Let's do this thing. We've got to be.
I forget that you sometimes come up with funny.
We have to up our game. We have 4 new subscribers this month, and they're going to be watching.
Yeah, but are they going to watch? Are they?
I don't know. Who cares?
Most of our views aren't from subscribers.
Can we open the bottles, please?
Because we haven't done the intro.
I predict a late night tonight, and I think it's going to be a good one in contrast to last week. At least, well, I don't know if last fortnight's was any good or not, but we started off by saying that we thought it was going to be our second worst one ever, didn't we? Didn't we?
What?
Last time.
Was that last time?
It was, yes.
Oh, it's the Bob. No, that wasn't last week, was it? It was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I was. Come on, because I've got so much to say.
Have you?
Wake up!
I did.
This is your last
4 hours ago.
You know, this is our last day as well. In what time is it now? By the way, this is Sunday that we're recording. This goes out on Thursday the 10th, but we're recording for the first time on the Sunday for the first time in a little while. What is it? The 6th. And because it is 8:30, in 3.5 hours' time, you and I will both be officially university students.
We already are, aren't we?
No, the academic year begins on the 7th.
I thought it began on the 21st.
No, that's welcome week. The academic year officially starts tomorrow.
I mean...
For Aberdeen University, anyway.
Yeah. Does that mean that I've technically been unemployed for the last few months?
Well, I'm not sure.
Unoccupied.
You were on child benefit till the end of August, so I suppose for the last week you've been kind of off the radar.
Hey.
So you've got 3.5 hours to get away with murder. Can we open our beers? I'll just get on and do the thing.
It's good. He's sitting next to me then, isn't it?
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get the fucking beers open.
We haven't started the podcast yet.
Can we start the podcast then? Please.
Do you want to?
Please.
Can you handle that?
Why would I not be able to?
Because you're...
This is going to be so full of bullshit. But great bullshit.
Bad man.
I've got things to say. I like doing this on a Sunday. Do you know why?
Because you're a twat.
I've been having a look at today's news.
And you don't respect the day of the Sabbath.
No, and Sundays, they come out with all the, kind of half pleasant news because there's fuck all else happening. I'm not going to say it. Oh, it's too late. I already mentioned it. Oh, it went beep and Can we get on with the podcast, please? I want to start my beer. I've been looking forward to this for ages.
No, I enjoy watching you suffer.
Yeah, well, right. I know that. My eyes hurt.
Shut up.
Yeah, but my eyes...
Shut up. Piece of twit.
What the fuck is one of those? Top quality content here. Quap quality. I haven't even started drinking yet. What a mess. No. This is going to be such a mess.
Last week, after the Bob,
it was a fortnight ago. It wasn't last week.
No, it was last week.
No,
it was actually less than a week ago because we did it on the Monday, I believe.
Yeah, but they're a fortnight apart. Breaking Bollocks are.
No, because we did this after the Bob. Did you not hear what I just said? Fucking listen.
Hang on.
You never listen.
I don't know what you're saying. Hang on.
After the Bob,
It was 13 days ago we last recorded Breaking Bollocks.
I'm not talking about recording Breaking Bollocks. It relates to Breaking Bollocks, but it happened a week ago, less than a week ago, 6 days ago.
What did?
Fucking twat.
Oh, just recording of any kind.
No.
What are you talking about?
But after the Bob, we had a bit of a drunken conversation. And we suggested, because we were sort of...
we were gonna...
Jamming. to drink before the podcast and like face each other.
Did we?
But I don't think that's a good idea given how terrible we are when we start this. But like my base level, and I think
No, you don't. You don't think at all.
my alcohol tolerance was lowered during lockdown because my base level of just natural drunkenness is about 2 drinks in already.
I don't know what you mean.
So like,
Please don't explain it though, because I'm not interested.
Because my brain's tired and I've gone a bit crazy.
I'm so up for this today.
That means
Let's
it's
get
gonna be
started.
shit.
No, it doesn't.
That's it, right?
We
okay.
get advertised as 2 hours of top quality content.
We get advertised.
Yeah, we get.
Because nobody else could bother to make one.
Well, no, our advert does go out occasionally on other podcasts, but we get bigged up. We get bug up. We get buggers.
We get bigged up by the pod daddy.
Who's the daddy?
Right, shall we begin? You shut the fuck up.
I wouldn't like to predict.
Greetings, internet, and welcome to Humble Abode.
Oh my god! I nearly sicked up bacon and egg and cheese muffin there into my. I coated my epiglottis with a moist burp.
Good evening, internet. How are we today?
I don't know whether we're going to get onto any of the subjects at all, and I don't care.
know if we're going to
I
get
don't
past
care.
the fucking intro. We'll be here in an
Let's get
hour.
in because I've got a thing to mention.
That's good because we're on a podcast.
kind
We
of-
have to talk.
Kind of
Well,
half relevant.
Usually about 2 hours.
Half relevant to the
might,
subject.
It might be good if you have some
There
things
is
to
a
talk about
connection.
instead of me just having to bring up everything every week.
Yeah,
Fortnite.
because that's what happens, isn't it? Yeah, you did say to me before we start,
A lot of
let's get the
time.
fucking podcast started because I can't talk about anything until we've started.
I was going to start the podcast, but you kept interrupting me like fucking
Okay,
rude
Okay,
Gandalf impersonator.
okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Get there again, aren't you? Hello.
It's my thing. People. Well, maybe 16 or 17 people must find it funny or at least entertaining because they keep coming back for some reason. They're like boomerangs. We keep trying to
I
throw
think
their
they're
listeners away.
masochists.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it properly this time. That's what she said.
Hello, internet. I'm Fireball.
And I'm the Orbiter.
That's a slightly terrifying clown there.
Is there any other sort?
Welcome to Breaking Bollocks, episode 67. My voice is breaking.
Can we now open the fucking beer?
The
Please.
title of the subject matter of this episode is criticism.
You're so interesting. Oh, sorry, it's not sarcasm, is it?
Yeah, you're
I'm
supposed to
going to wait on my
criticise me.
fucking beer before it. Yeah. So what we're drinking?
Alfie.
I'm on Innocent Gun. I've been working on website shit all day.
I'm having something that I haven't had before, I believe. A Polish beer by the name of Tiski.
Tisky.
Tiski.
I think I've had that before. I'm sticking with the Innocent Gun.
Because you
Ball breaker.
You don't like variety and spice.
Well, no, it's more that it's 6.6%.
Oh, you just like getting shit faced.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah.
You could have vodka.
Yeah, but I'm not so keen on the death aspect.
Well, it's definitely about vodka.
Well, if I drank as much vodka as I drink beer on these evenings, I would probably be in the hospital having one of my vital organs pumped.
Meow.
Speaking of organs and linking it to the
Oh,
news,
no.
the news.
Oh no!
Right, okay.
I'm scared.
Now, I think this is quite poetic that
Is
I'm
it?
bringing it up
Is it?
at this particular point. Do you remember
No.
episode 16?
Oh, was it music?
How the fuck did you remember that? Jesus Christ.
I have a good memory, and it's got a memorable thumbnail.
Holy fuck.
I remember
Okay.
like the first 20 episodes roughly, and then after that, it's just all a haze of shit.
Okay, so that one, which if we've been doing them every fortnight, I suppose, and we're now on episode 67, that's 51. That must be almost 2 years ago.
Roughly every fortnight. I mean, we did have a bit of a break.
Oh, it's probably more than 2 years ago. But anyway, do you remember we performed a piece of music
Oh, yes.
on that podcast? Well, I came across, and this is loosely linked to criticism because I saw somebody criticise this particular piece of music, but the composer of that piece of music, which if you haven't listened to it or seen us perform it, go back and listen, is John Cage's 433, wasn't it?
You didn't do it justice.
Well,
We're amateurs.
in the news yesterday, there is in progress as we speak a performance of another piece by Mr. John Cage, which is subtitled. I can't remember the exact title. It's something like ASLSP or something. It's got a weird title, but basically the instruction on it is for it to be performed as slowly as possible. And there is currently a performance going on of it in a church in Germany, which has been going on. I think it started in, I can't remember exactly, it was maybe 2010, 2011. And yesterday, crowds of fans, John Cage fans, gathered to witness a chord change. Because the last chord change that happened in this piece was in 2013, when you were 10 years old. The last time the note changed. This piece is being performed at the moment on a specially built organ. And in actual fact,
they didn't just get like musicians to come back.
no, there's no keyboard on it because obviously they wouldn't want anyone playing the wrong notes at any particular time. But they actually gathered to watch the notes for the next chord be installed in the organ in time for the notes to change. It's due to finish. This piece is due to finish being performed in 2640.
Wow. Do you reckon humanity will even be around by then?
The next note change is apparently in 2022. So it's a bit quicker, this note, than the last one. But yeah, the criticism I saw of it was somebody responded to it with a comment of, "That's not music, that's sound. That's just sound." And I thought to myself, would you say the same thing about 4 minutes 33? Ba-dum.
Do we have to hold this pause for 4 minutes and 33 seconds?
No, 639 years.
Oh, that should fill the length of the podcast. I'm sure we've had longer episodes.
Yeah, we all know what we're talking about there.
But we've had longer episodes than that on this podcast, not the other one that only lasted 8 episodes.
But this is why we're saying I like doing this on a Sunday, because these kind of news items come up. There was some guy that's broken some world record for sitting in a block of ice as well.
Amazing. What? How does this? Oh, yeah,
It's the
criticism.
news bit. Yeah,
we're
I'm not
doing
so sure about
news.
criticism. Well, we don't have to, because I know it's shit. So, what's happening?
Yeah.
Anyone who's watching on YouTube might notice we have a big box behind us, a very big box behind us, because I went and bought a big telly. It's ever so exciting.
That's because.
A 58-incher.
Ow.
Mm-hmm. That's because
Someone stole our Wii U.
Yeah. In other words, your sister and her boyfriend.
Yeah.
They were over here for just to see us because we're ace people, and playing Mario Kart, and then when I came down to give them a lift back, the Wii U was packed up in a carrier bag with all the games and accessories. Apparently, she'd said to Mum, "Do you think they'll notice?"
It's like you don't even know how to react to that, do you?
No, I mean, it was mine technically.
Yeah, you bought it.
You have a PS4 and a PS3 in your room, so I suppose. I mean, we don't play it often, do we? But
because we have no friends.
I don't know what to do about it, though.
Well, there's still a bunch of Wii games there that they didn't even take. It's like, well, we don't have a Wii either, so we can't use them.
No, well, the daft thing is as well that the flat she's in at the moment, they also have a Wii that belongs to a flatmate.
So they didn't take them, just left us with all the games that they didn't want.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is just rude.
I might have to get people to put a load of money together for my birthday next month and get myself a Switch. Mm-hmm. Perhaps. Anyway, it started off well, but I think it's kind of slowing down now. I think I peaked too soon.
Don't know.
I'm not going to start. I'm going to put that away because I'm pretty sure last episode I was playing with my cap all the way through the episode.
I don't even know what that's a euphemism for. But
my bottle cap.
No.
Craig thinks I shit myself on the episode. That's why I stop things. Yeah, I'm supposed to be.
You're not gonna deny it, okay?
I'm supposed to be recording some Christmas piano tunes for their Christmas podcast thing, and I keep. What?
We're in the middle of a podcast.
Sorry, I was just wondering.
conversation.
I was just thinking out loud. It's a bit like, you know, when you watch The Simpsons and Homer's kind of thought bubbles are like.
He just starts having a conversation.
Oh no, did I say that out loud? Oh dear. So, well, I'm just trying to fill the gap because you're not speaking.
Well, what I can't remember what actually happens in between episodes, and if what happened. I think the thing with Carl Rittenhouse happened before the last episode.
Who's that again?
The 17-year-old that went and shot two protesters.
Oh yeah, the one that's now being represented by Rudy Giuliani.
Yep, and defended by the president himself.
Wanker.
Because America's just... See, with... I mean, it's a problem...
It's a regular America bashing slot.
It's a problem with British politics as well, but it's just looking at all the fuck ton of problems in America. You just start looking at one and go, well, this is easy. Just
I'll tell you,
don't shoot black people.
Well,
it seems like a simple concept.
This is one thing I'm noticing a lot more now. I mean, obviously, I was kind of aware of the inequalities and the racial hatred and stuff going on beforehand, but you really pick up on it a lot more. You notice it a lot more now with the sort of recent Black Lives Matter kind of being so in the news, if you like. I don't know, brought to the fore. You kind of, and I'm just rewatching Luke Cage at the moment, and it's just so obvious. You know, it's just so. It's very poignant, a lot of the stuff that's kind of...
I think a lot of people refer to the protests as if it's some sort of new situation. Yeah, it's a little bit different this time, but like this has been going on for well over a century.
I just mean that there's a lot more awareness happening.
But if you look at reports from riots in 1919, you could think... very easily.
Well, that's what Trump's focusing on.
They're just from today.
Yeah, that's what Trump's focusing on is the riots and the law and order aspect of it. Not he's going to these places to support the police and to say that the rioting and stuff is unreasonable and needs to be cracked down on.
But it's just a complete refusal to listen to the most basic things. It's sort of like the riots are happening because about a person who is pretty much completely innocent, although nobody is going to be completely innocent because that's unreasonable, but definitely had no reason to be killed.
I'm completely innocent.
You were not completely innocent this week, I'm sure.
What do you mean?
I'm not going to bring up examples, but
Well, no, please tell me what you mean. What did I do this week?
well, you did probably things this week that you did that aren't entirely within the exact specificity of the law. I don't know.
I'm trying to think now.
Like your eyesight's fucked and you still drive.
Well, I don't drive after dark because that's the biggest problem is.
But like it's
getting blinded by lights.
within reason, but like, and then you get people that are really as close as possible to like an actual angel, and they still find some way to twist round the narrative so that they somehow deserve the punishment they're getting.
Yeah, I mean, I've got enough eyesight in one eye certainly to
But like
to drive with care short distances.
Nobody is perfect, and
but I do keep it to a minimum.
I don't think that guilty people should be shot by police either. Weirdly enough, because I'm not some
in the back while they're not actually doing anything wrong.
Yeah, I'm not somebody that
in front of their kid.
Just it just seems like, oh well, they're a criminal, therefore they must be a horrible, evil person. It's just complete failure to just understand proportion of any kind. I think it's there was a ContraPoint video on this quite recently on justice in general, and it like looks back in history to examples of justice and this sort of idea of revenge, but also like looking at religious examples of like karma as something that is quite prevalent in Buddhism and Hinduism, but a lot of people also have this sort of general philosophy of, oh, well, if you did something bad, then something bad's going to happen to you, even though that's not really how it works. But, you know, so I feel like people just sort of post hoc justify people being killed for things that they definitely don't deserve to be killed for, if anyone does deserve
that
to be
whole
killed
idea
for
of
anything.
karma kind of assumes that there is a moral fabric to the universe.
It just
really
kind of assumes that anything that happens will automatically be just, and then it's like, well, okay, so everyone in the Twin Towers in 9/11, they deserve that. They must have done something bad, right? Yeah. You gonna say that? I don't think so, because that's fucking stupid. But
as you know, when you said the Two Towers, I was thinking, what, the Lord of the Rings film?
yeah, and then I remembered that. But it's exhausting. Can you shut the fuck up?
No, I can't.
It's exhausting.
There's irony for you.
But yeah, I saw a clip of like Jacob Blake's sister talking about not just her brother dying, but also just at how much she's seen that throughout her life, and she's not sad about it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's this assumption that
I think there was one line that sort of encapsulated quite well was, I don't want your pity, I want change.
There's the thing when I mentioned about Luke Cage is that the thing that sort of struck me was that there's that attitude coming from certain people that if a black man's running away, then he must have done something wrong. Whereas what they're failing to realize is that they're being chased by a white policeman with a gun under circumstances where...
Yeah, well, if you're in that circumstance...
you kind of...
Plenty of people have complied perfectly with the law and done everything within their power to do what the police say they should do, and they still get killed.
You can be scared of
So it's
you
completely
can be scared
reasonable
without
to
being a
run.
criminal.
Yeah.
You can be scared of the
That's
police.
the thing with like that whole with the quite blatant breaches of privacy in the name of counterterrorism. The whole, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. And they use this sort of argument to justify stop and frisk, even though that's disproportionately used in the UK on black people, I think, at about 9 times.
You know how ridiculous that argument is, though? It's like, well, then why the fuck does anybody wear clothes?
Yeah, I guess.
It's like...
But yeah, it's sort of like, I mean, that's a privacy argument, but also if the person doing the searching wants you dead for ulterior reasons, let's say, quite possibly racism, then you've got a reason to be scared, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just this automatic assumption that, the police are meant to be the good guys, therefore they will be. That's how
there are other forms of threat than those brought upon criminals by the law.
Yeah, well, I think the idea is assuming that the law is right in the first place because because it exists in a democracy. That means that the law must be determined democratically.
But even in that sense, it's as much about the people who are enforcing it because, they're human beings.
Yeah, but the actual institution of the police itself is deliberately discriminatory.
Mm-hmm.
So while individual police officers might be good individuals, theoretically, the thing that they work for is terrible. It's corrupt.
It's difficult as well, though. I mean, you say deliberately, and some people might argue that it's perhaps not as deliberate as...
It's designed fairly explicitly if you look back at the history of the police force.
Yeah.
Even recent history of like the Met, they quite explicitly talk about doing racial profiling as if that's not blatantly racist.
Mm.
And then you get in this sort of circular logic of, black people are more likely to be in poverty.
I think
therefore they
do you know what I think?
Likely to commit crime. But then it's like, why are they in poverty? Because of other forms of racism.
Can we
stop? For me, just fix it.
There is a value to there is a use for doing some form of statistical analysis of a situation, but it's how that information is used and applied.
They don't care about preventing crimes; they care about punishing people for doing crimes that.
But the racial profiling that you're talking about, if that is based on actual figures that come from statistics to do with crime and arrest rates and prisoners and stuff like that,
it's only because that's where they put the police.
This is my point, though. It's not that information is flawed. It's how it is used, how it's applied. You can't then use it to tag someone with the same characteristics because of the color of their skin. It's no use saying they're more likely to be arrested and put in prison for a crime because that's historically what's happened. That might be, but that could also not be the reason that there are more black people arrested and put in prison.
Because I think just with like drugs, it's been determined that white people actually do drugs more than black people, yet black people get arrested at a far higher rate for drugs.
I'm not saying that it's not evidence that there is some injustice or that there is a crime going on there, but they're looking in the wrong place for it. If people are being your thingy bob beeps.
What?
Your computer just beeped again, or was it that?
I don't know. Shut up. Right. Continue with the podcast. It doesn't matter. It won't pick up on the mic.
Okay.
Right. But yeah, it's just it's a circular problem. This is what I was talking about with like American and British politics, where you see a problem and there's a fairly obvious solution to it, but then there's a refusal to imagine any possible world in which the thing stopping that doesn't actually exist.
Lack of imagination.
Yeah, so there's sort of this idea of like three major broad oppressive systems in the world right now, I guess, or within at least Western society. Those being white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism. Now, while all of those can exist on their own and be bad, they currently exist at the same time and sort of work together to oppress certain groups of people more viciously.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because the advocates of those systems,
weaker without one another.
The advocates of those systems would deny that they are oppressive.
I'm
I mean,
sure about.
I don't know about white supremacists necessarily, but certainly capitalism.
Proud of being racist.
Capitalists and
no, capitalists definitely wouldn't. But I don't think many people would say that they're avid supporters of the patriarchy. Although they may be.
I think there's a lot of people around that don't even understand what, or don't acknowledge that that's what's, don't realise that that's what's.
I say the patriarchy, because I think the patriarchy sort of encompasses things like homophobia and transphobia, because it's sort of based around this really fucked up idea of masculinity. Most of those things.
It's basically,
broadly speaking, although women can be perpetrators of that.
It's a society which has a male figurehead.
Yeah,
it's
centered on men, though.
Yeah, but the reason for that is because the symbolic figure at the head of that society, which in the novel 1984, it's Big Brother. With us, it's God.
I guess. I mean, I think religion sort of declined its influence over the years, but yeah.
But it's still there. It's still
I mean, religion's been used to justify all three.
Mm. Well, yeah, because it is. It like the whole monarch situation is that you know, the head of state is somebody who's sort of what do you call it? Not endowed by God, but chosen by God. You know, like kind of. Yeah, that kind of. Well, it's in the national anthem, isn't it? God Save the Queen. You know, it's like.
Yeah. But it's just.
And that's wrapped up in nationalism as well, because you have different religions associated with different countries and cultures.
You get something. So like with the situation with police in America. Sure, black people are arrested at a high rate, but that's kind of confirmation bias because the police system that arrests those people is already racist, so that data is not really that reliable. Secondly, the people who are arrested justly are very much influenced by their surroundings, surprisingly. You don't see many billionaires getting arrested. However, you do see a lot of people that are in debt getting arrested.
This brings me right to... This is... I watch an episode of The Simpsons over breakfast every morning, and this was in one of the episodes this morning, and it's directly linked to the subject of the podcast. Also, it's kind of self-fulfilling in that when somebody's overly critical, like the police or the state being overly critical of the black community... It's kind of, it makes that person. I mean, this was in the episode of Simpsons. It was Marge and Homer. But it kind of endows them with a sense of shame at what they are. In that, you know, if you treat someone a certain way, they can't help but react to that, and it's kind of, if you're treated as though you're a criminal in a society by that society, you're much more likely to actually inhabit that role, because it's kind of,
I guess, theoretically, but it's what the society's considering as a crime here.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't consider what the police do as a crime, even though they are breaking laws to terrorize people. That's what they do. And beating up peaceful protesters.
But it's the essence of power, isn't it? It's like, I mean, like, you know, I've heard stories of when I was at college, I had friends who told me about friends of theirs who'd been arrested for possession of drugs and whatever. And in between actually having it confiscated by the police and it actually getting to court, the quantity that was recorded on the record was about a quarter of what they actually had. So they were being prosecuted for about a quarter of what they'd had taken off them. So somewhere along the line, the other 3/4 of it had gone missing.
Right, yeah.
And there is that kind of, you know, I mean, somebody I used to work with, their daughter was in the police, and actually they had to leave in the end because I think the straw that broke their kind of mental back, if you like, was that they attended a road traffic accident where a baby had been decapitated. And they were like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. But anyway, they used to have colleagues that turned up to parties with things that other people would be arrested for, should we say.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, well, who's going to punish them? Who's going to arrest them for it? You know,
their own friends would be the ones doing the arresting, and they don't.
And I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying that this is what all police are like. You know,
no, but the power is there within the system to do that if anyone wanted to.
Yeah,
it's like someone pointing a gun at you and saying, "Well, I'm not going to shoot it, so don't worry about it. I'm just going to hold this gun here." And you go, "Can you please stop pointing a gun at me?" But I'm not going to shoot it. I'm never going to shoot it.
Yeah, and if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have to worry about me pointing the gun at you.
Yeah, so just relax while I point this gun at your head. Yeah. And that's the reality in America. Literally, with people having guns pointed at them for not really doing anything and just being told, well, don't run away because then I'll shoot you. It's like, well, would you shoot me anyway if I stayed here? Because that's what's happened.
What else has happened in the last 2 weeks?
There was something with Extinction Rebellion. I think it's fairly niche stuff.
Yeah, I keep getting emails from them because I kind of signed up to their newsletters and that they are doing protests and stuff. They picketed or barricaded or basically prevented some newspapers from going out.
Before that, though, I did see something about I think someone at an Extinction Rebellion protest had held up a banner essentially saying that capitalism is the root cause of the climate change, or something along that line, that basically endorsing socialism as a solution to climate change.
Right.
And the official XR account, I think, sort of said that this wasn't like endorsed by them in any way, and they don't endorse any specific ideology.
Yeah, they don't have. I mean, I think this is one of the mistakes that a lot of people make, is that they see it as they see it as an organization, and it's not.
Yeah, well,
it's a movement.
Do this with a lot of protest movement. It's like, well, it's a loose collection of people while there is a central.
But there was the news made a big thing about those guys that were on the roof of that train when the big protests were going on in London.
But
most
of it seems to didn't care about them.
Most of us kind of said it wasn't a good idea, but you can't stop an individual from expressing their rights to
a little bit of
sort of
debate around that, and sort of, while I understand Extinction Rebellion not saying that they explicitly support socialism because they don't want to scare anyone off of Extinction Rebellion, I guess.
Well, it's just, I don't think it's necessarily that. It's just that they don't have an agenda. You know, it's
well, there was.
It would perhaps prevent people who think in a capitalistic way from making changes that are going to be a benefit. If you alienate people on a political platform, then
Yeah, well, I think the idea of that message was to say that they didn't want to alienate anyone, essentially.
yeah.
But I did see some sort of criticism of them for this. I think there's a Chico Mendes quote.
But this is the thing. It's like when you say you saw some criticism of them, it's like who are you talking about when you say them?
Well, of whoever runs the Twitter account of Extinction Rebellion,
Right.
the official one.
Mm.
I think it was something along the lines of environmentalism without something. Where is it?
I mean, it can't not be political, can it? Really?
Yeah, well, I think this is sort of the criticism.
As a lot of things, really. People try to keep politics out of everything, but you forget that every interaction that you have has some political content.
I don't know the specific quote, but I think it is from Chico Mendes saying that environmentalism without, I think, class consciousness is just gardening.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because climate change is directly a result of the capitalistic
But I suppose the main
surge to consume.
the main message
more
behind that
resources.
really is that the biggest victims are those that are in
there's
poverty.
two sides to that. That capitalism caused the climate change there, but also that
It
those
kind of caused the poverty as
at
well,
the
didn't
bottom of the pack, are gonna experience the effects a lot worse. Like in Louisiana recently, when during a lockdown, a hurricane rolled through, and people didn't really have any option of where to go. And then also landlords started being shitty about it, and the eviction moratorium thing, I think, is over in America. So a lot of landlords are starting to evict people for not paying back rent over the last few months where they haven't been earning as much. Because although we've gotten furlough in the UK, in America they got one check for I think $1,200 back in May.
Yeah,
and everyone else has been going off of unemployment benefits.
Our
not enough for
definition of furlough has been kind of coloured by our way of implementing it here, but actually furlough just means a break from the workplace. And I think there are a lot of people, because I know is it some of the Disney employees have been indefinitely furloughed. Which means they're basically not getting any pay. They're not kind of. I suppose it's all but sacking them, really, isn't it? But
in the UK, we've gotten a certain percentage of what our paycheck. What I say I don't work. So.
Yeah, that's the what's that called? Coronavirus Business Retention Scheme, is it? Something like that.
Is that
basically it goes
the Scottish thing, or
no? It goes in the I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it goes arm in arm with the furlough scheme. The business can furlough employees under this scheme, and the government will compensate them with. It's been 80%. I think it's going. I'm not sure if it's September that it's going down to the government pays 70%, but the employer still has to pay 80% to the employee. And then I think
it's been better in other countries, but we at least have that. Whereas in America, they've not really had anything significant like that for months.
Yeah.
And people that can't work from home have either had to go in and risk getting coronavirus.
Well, is this why a lot of places over there have just had to just kind of carry on as though there's normal because they don't really have a choice?
See, this is the thing with I've seen a lot of dialogue about going back to work, people wanting to go back to offices. And
they're trying to encourage that here.
yeah, here. I mean, in America, it's an entirely different situation. But it seems like the whole debate is just ignoring that coronavirus even exists, and just it's people talking about, well, there's benefits of working from home.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, cool, but like also the main reason that nobody's going into offices, or nobody should be going into offices,
don't have
because it's dangerous to.
We still don't have the track and trace system sorted out properly, do we? There's no app.
Because our government's incompetent.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see they hired Tony fucking Abbott as a trade advisor?
I was thinking Russ Abbott then when you said that. Who's Tony Abbott?
Former Prime Minister of Australia. And in an interview with, I think it was Matt Hancock on this, basically some advisor for Brexit trade.
Whenever I hear his name, I think it just automatically makes me think wanker, because hand and cock, you know?
Oh, I'm talking about Tony Abbott, but yeah, Matt Hancock too can fuck off. But yeah, basically, I think it was in a Sky interview, Kay Burley, who is a badass.
She's very entertaining.
She basically made the point that Tony Abbott is a misogynist and homophobe, which he is. And then Matt Hancock replied, but he's also an expert in trade. It feels like we're in the thick of it.
That's brilliant. That's like
Which,
acknowledging
by the way,
that she's right.
He's not an expert on trade either.
He's such a knob, isn't he? Matt Hancock is such a knob.
Yeah,
but it's like you're just waiting for him to make another gaffe.
Oh, and Daniel Hannan. What? I can't remember. I swear he got sacked for wanking at work. It might be another person. Like, I might be thinking of another wanker Tory. Literally, Daniel Hannan.
That reminded me of
Brexit people.
What was that program we used to watch? Californication. That was brilliant.
Yeah, he's an MEP for the Conservatives. Yeah, he basically went on Fox News to say that the NHS was a mistake that the Americans shouldn't go into.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to reassure people that they don't want to sell off the NHS to American companies. The
actual NHS. You don't mean that going into creating a system like that for America would be a mistake. You're talking about them actually going into our NHS.
No, he's saying to Americans that they shouldn't have universal healthcare, essentially.
Right, okay.
Because he believes it was a mistake for Britain. And it was a nice idea and all for people that couldn't afford healthcare to have it, but it was a terrible mistake because you've underfunded it for the last fucking...
I don't know.
However long, 40 years.
We'd be in serious difficulty if it wasn't for the NHS. Like, just on prescription stuff. In actual fact, I think we'd be struggling if we were down in England. The amount of prescriptions that we rely on
prescriptions in England, you only get the first few free, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can get a discount sort of bulk kind of.
I mean,
thing
it's
for
cheaper
month,
than American medication, but it's still not great.
No, but I see. When I first moved up to Scotland, there were still prescription charges up here. Do you know how much I don't know about your course, but I was quite surprised at this. How much the course that I'm taking, the tuition fees are for the year?
It's much less than the English ones, I noticed.
£1,820.
Yeah, I think it's roughly something like that for me, in the range of 1,500 to 2,000.
Yeah.
Not in America, in England, I think it's up to 10,000.
Yeah, but the funny thing about it is,
and they're not free.
We don't have to actually pay that.
Well, you'd have to pay that if you're earning enough to, but
I mean, you look at Aberdeen Uni and you think, well, they clearly have enough money coming in because the facilities and the organisation is phenomenal. You know, they've got top notch. I mean, I'm really impressed so far, and I haven't even started. Just on the IT stuff that we've been fed, and the structure of everything seems to be just really well done. You think, well, they're clearly funded well enough. Then, I wonder whether or not they get a lot of sponsorship from the oil industry. I know they have obviously they have engineering for that. They've also got a good legal department, sort of lawyer training kind of department, law department, and medicine as well.
But I think it's just the Scottish government does also subsidise a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So there's not that class barrier to higher education like there would be in England. And I think the only way that I would be able to get something like that in England would be to get a scholarship or get grandparents to pay it.
A lot of the financial assistance that we've had through the coronavirus problems, we've managed to secure some business grant help and stuff through the what is it called? The Scottish Enterprise something or other fund. Yeah, Scottish Enterprise Fund. It's all stuff that's been secured from funding through the European Union.
What? Yeah.
So, if this had happened next year,
yeah.
Are you on?
Sorry, I just saw this weird photo of him just looking at the camera like a robot. So, sorry, Daniel Hannan.
And the negotiator. I mean, that's all going tits up, isn't it?
Yeah, they basically. I'm confused at this point.
Today, what I read was the chief negotiator basically said, "We're not afraid to walk away from the negotiations."
Yeah, they had that election in 2019 to get the Brexit deals through, supposedly, which they then did. Does it appear any of them actually fucking read it? Because now they're going, oh, well, we didn't know that we were surrendering our sovereignty, and this is a terrible deal. It's like, yes, the deal that we had before was much better, but that ship sailed now, and it's fucking sunk. It's at the bottom of the ocean. Everyone's dead.
Do you think we're allowing our podcasts to become slagging off everybody that's in the news because we then don't have to try and think of things to say on the subject of the podcast? It's like,
well, it's just very easy when it's the Tories. No. Oh, I've got so much that I just...
You've got mushy peas in your brain.
Right, the XR thing, they blocked... basically blocked, like, the Telegraph and Daily Mail.
I said that, and you swept it under the carpet.
But I went back to the thing about criticising them for not endorsing
but then
them
people are now saying that they're enemies of the free press. It's like,
Boris Johnson, who boycotted Channel 4 and hid in a fridge to get away from Good Morning Britain. That happened in British... That fucking happened. I love it. It's great. I love this country.
I do understand what argument people are trying to make when they say that about the free press, but it's kind of it's a bit rich when you're talking about papers like The Sun and the Mail and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe if you're a Sun reader or a Mail reader listening to this, you might think, yeah, well, you would say that because you're lefty wankers or whatever. I don't know. It's just when I don't know. The Sun is
the Sun can go fuck itself.
There is nothing I would like more than to see that paper go under.
Yeah. Well, I think it was the motive behind that was they publish a bunch of misinformation about climate change to the point where it's having enough of an effect on it that it's negative, and they wanted to stop that.
I don't know if they still do it. I know there was a campaign to stop it, but the vast majority of my life, the most famous thing about The Sun was page 3.
The most famous thing about it to me is Hillsborough.
Yeah.
It's banned in Liverpool for that, I think. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Boris Johnson also wrote a terrible article on, like he has on everything, apparently.
Well, we've got the Scottish... you're going to be voting in that, aren't you, next year? The Scottish... What is it, local council elections or something? I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's something... or is it Scottish government election? I don't know. We've got a Scottish vote coming up next year that you, as a 17-year-old, are eligible to vote in because they let 16-year-olds vote in Scotland.
Which is just sensible. Scottish elections, here we go.
And that's basically what's going to be. What is it?
2021 Scottish something.
It was there. There it is. Latest poll predicts SNP set for huge win at 2021. It's just Scottish elections.
Yeah, I think it'll be like for the Scottish Parliament.
Is it for Holyrood? Yeah.
I just want to get rid of Daniel Hannon's face.
That would be good.
Yeah, the other getting rid of Daniel Hannon's face.
I don't even care who he is. I don't even know who he is, but I no. I was talking about getting rid of what's his name? That cunt from the Tories in Holyrood. He's head of the Scottish Conservatives or something. He's a knob jockey.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, Ruth Davidson had to leave because it was being so shit.
She was way too reasonable for the Tories.
Yeah. I mean, she's still a Tory, so she can go fuck herself, frankly. But, like, there are some that are a bit more sensible than the rest of them.
So that was a bit of a innocent gun moment there.
Yeah, the other thing that I saw, it was a while ago, but I want to mention it. Priti Patel, or the Home Office in general, talking about activist lawyers stopping them deporting people, essentially illegally.
What?
Well, because with the asylum seekers, under international law, asylum seekers have to be housed here until we process the application.
Yeah.
Basically, lawyers going in to say, yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, there was something else about...
And the Home Office was like, oh, well, activist lawyers should be stopped. Oh, no. It's like, no, it's just the law needs to be stopped.
There's something else that we're guilty of as well, that apparently... something about the unlawful detention of children.
Oh, yeah, of course, because of course we do that as well.
Yeah, no, because when they're being held for processing or something, I can't remember what it was, but it was another international law that we're guilty of breaking to do with the rights of the child, and that you're not supposed to. Basically, effectively, I mean, we call it something else. We're holding them for processing, but they call it that. But essentially, it's basically illegally detaining them.
Yeah, like they do at the border.
Yeah,
America.
But because they don't call it detaining them, it's not breaking the law, is it? Well, that's what they think.
That's bloody double think.
It is, absolutely. Double speak, double think.
Oh, we don't call it murder, therefore it's just a...
Double twatty,
nice.
Double chocolate cookies. Oh, that reminds me, there's a bag of cookies in the kitchen. Yeah. And we got some yum-yums.
But yeah, Britain seems to have this attitude towards international law. It's like, well, no, we used to have an empire. We shouldn't have to do that.
I am the law.
Yeah, well, that's essentially the idea. It's like, oh, we don't have to because who's gonna make us do it? It's like, well, you bloody signed the thing, didn't you?
We are the Judge Dredd of the international community.
Yeah, the thing with Judge Dredd is that was supposed to be a satire of American police, but because American media is so fucked up, they ended up making him the good guy, I think.
He's a superhero.
Yeah.
Oh. How embarrassing of me. Somebody
probably didn't pick up.
Somebody twittered.
What else was I going to say?
Mimble, mamble, mumble.
Oh, my brain's gone.
Where did it go, Fireball? Let's talk about criticism.
No, I had a thought.
It's gone now.
What was it?
I don't know, pardon me.
Oh, I'm really annoyed at that now. Let's talk about criticism.
You're really annoyed. How about self-criticism?
What?
Well, you're really annoyed at yourself.
Yeah, I have a problem with that.
What, self-criticism?
Yeah.
I think most people
I'm
do.
not really fair to myself with that.
I think it is a problem for a lot of people.
Yeah, but it gets to the point where, like, I actually want to just get out of my skin and just stop existing sometimes.
Yeah, but please don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
You look like one of them.
Want to, but
you know, plum-peeled tomatoes in tins. If you get out of your skin.
Oh, I didn't mean literally.
What's red and taps on glass? No, hang on. Hang on.
Welcome to the Orc Who Tries to Remember a Joke.
There were a couple of sick jokes about. One of them was about a baby in a microwave, and the other one was about a peeled baby in a salt bucket. But I can't remember what the jokes were.
I'm guessing the baby in the microwave one was the one that taps on glass.
Taps on glass. Yeah, I don't know why it would be red though, because if it got to the point where it was red, it wouldn't be capable of tapping on the glass anymore. There was a red. What goes red, green, red, green, red, green, red, green? As Kermit the Frog in a blender.
Cool. Right. Yeah. Great.
Criticism.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this before, really. With like sort of the cancel culture discussion.
What was that episode about?
I don't remember. It was about something else, so it was a bit off topic, but it was because it was when J.K. Rowling was doing her fucking just awfulness.
So, I mean, there's different forms, isn't there? There's criticism in that sense of actually just criticising other people for things that they say and do. And then there's criticism in a formal sense of like the sort of thing that critics do. For works of art.
Yeah, well, you can have like positive criticism in that way, but criticism generally, as it's used in the day-to-day, tends to mean something bad, I think.
Yeah. It's definitely a negative thing, isn't it? Criticising.
Yeah.
I mean, what constitutes positive criticism?
Well, like
you're pointing out faults, aren't you? But how does positive criticism do that in a way that?
Well, it would be like what a critic does, like if they have a movie or
pointing out how things, rather than pointing out the negative attributes of something, pointing out the ways that it could be improved on.
Well, that's constructive criticism,
right?
It might be a criticism of the flaws of something, but
so positive criticism
has suggestions on how to actually fix it rather than just like insulting it.
So is positive criticism actually pointing out the good points?
Yeah, I would say so, but like I guess that's what a critic would do for something that they like. Well, a good critic would probably realise in most media there's not really an example of a perfect piece.
Do you know what? I mean, I know, and this is something that's a fairly widely held opinion, I think, is that film critic wise, I think Mark Commode's held up as pretty on point for assessing how good things are.
Have I heard commode before?
It's what people shit in.
No, not that.
I don't know.
Might have been in the dream I had last night. I had a really weird dream.
But one thing I just can't get my head around is, you know, like on Sky or any platform that lists films either for watching or, you know, IMDb, whatever. But Sky in particular, actually, is the star rating that you see on something. I don't know where they get that from.
Possibly user reviews. I'm not sure.
But like quite often I'll see something that's given like 2 stars out of 5 or 1.5 out of 5, and it's something that I've really enjoyed.
Yeah, but that's because you don't have like a refined taste. You just like to actually enjoy what you watch.
But does that? I would argue that means I do have a refined taste. Surely.
Yeah, but like you don't. See, it's sort of for people, I guess,
What is
that
your
are looking for
intention?
something that is. They're looking for the good stuff, you know.
Yeah, but good is a subjective term, you know.
What
Quality
yeah,
is quality is it's a very difficult thing to define, isn't it? I mean, there are obvious cases where something's shit, but then sometimes you get something that comes along that's you can't work out whether it's shit or genius because it kind of plays with that. There was one film, I can't remember what's his name was in it. The guy that plays Kylo Ren last year, and I think Bill Murray was in it as well. Bill Murray's another weird one. That he's a brilliant actor and comedian, but sometimes it really does walk that line between shit and genius. And I think
the Don Quixote one.
No, that's Terry Gilliam. That was
Oh, which one are you talking about?
Bill Murray. He plays Scrooge in the film Scrooged.
No, you said about Adam Driver, didn't you?
Yeah, Bill Murray was in this film with Adam Driver from last year. That was
what?
I can't remember what it was called, but it was one of those that's like crap or genius kind of.
Just look him up on fucking IMDb.
Yeah, you do that while I think of something else. You've derailed my thought again. I was going to say something else. You just keep interrupting me until I can't process thought things anymore.
Do I do that?
Yes, Wes Craven. His films, I find, is it Wes Craven? No,
don't know.
The Coen brothers as well. They're the other ones that are weird. Yes, that was the one. I saw that, and it really, I mean, it even parodies itself in that it gets to the point where they turn around and they're like, "Is this actually crap?" It's almost like. And what's his name? Quentin Tarantino kind of plays with that sort of grindhouse thing, and he's held up as a genius for doing that, where he's kind of basically deliberately making something in the style of utter crap because of its historical value. Do you know about grindhouse? Sort of B-movie kind of style.
Yeah, there's a point where it sort of it has some, I guess, used to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Where like it sort of criticizing the medium that it's actually in is funny in itself. But yeah, the reviews don't seem to be that great for this. The Dead Don't Die.
Are they user reviews?
I'm not sure what this is based on. I'm assuming so.
It's IMDb.
Yeah, IMDb users.
And what's that? Oh, right, okay. So See, that's kind of... You never know whether to trust... It's a difficult one. My view on it basically is watch shit and decide, you know, what you're watching it for, and you know, it's like I don't enjoy kind of judging something on its quality when I'm sitting there trying to be having a good time and relax and be entertained, you know.
Yeah, there's sort of. I actually saw
different. If I'm taking a university course or something, then
strangely a video about punji pits in Tony Hawk games, but it's something Alfred Hitchcock, I think, coined. I think it was like a. What was it? It was like a freezer thought or criticism. Something that you think of when you're putting stuff into the freezer rather than whilst you're watching the actual film.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what it's actually. Fucking hell.
An afterthought?
No, it's something that Hitchcock coined specifically.
Is
it a freezer?
See, I mean, I often find myself sort of laughing at some of the stuff that you think, like, well, that's not very realistic. That
Fridge
wouldn't happen.
logic.
And that, like,
There
it's
we
kind
go.
of, well, yeah, but you're not watching a film for realism. I suppose some people are. Depends on what you're watching, isn't it? Find Fridge Logic in Aberdeen.
Yeah, there's just stupid ads.
Yeah.
It's Fridge Logic, yeah, Icebox, Fridge Logic, that sort of thing. That he coined is sort of something that you think of that's inconsistent in a film after you watch it.
Yeah. But what's important is what's happening while you're watching it rather than something that occurs to you later on, kind of.
I mean, there is a place in criticising media because...
I'll tell you what, I have to go and see it again, but went to see Tenet last week, and I can't... I spent probably certainly the first half of the film, I'd kind of given up on it because I just could not follow what was going on.
Yeah, but you can't bloody...
Yeah, you always say that, but you're talking bollocks.
You cannot follow anything. Trying to watch Marvel films with you, it's like, I don't know what's going on after.
No, that's entirely the opposite of what's happening.
What?
Well, usually it's me and Mum talking in depth about what's going on because we've seen a lot more of the Marvel Cinematic backstory than you have.
Yeah, but it already makes sense without that. It's kind of, it can stand on its own. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, but on a much shallower level, there's a lot less depth to the story when you only watching half of it. It's discussing something doesn't mean that you don't understand it. It's kind of accepting something at face value without discussing it is surely more of a problem.
Okay, but there are a lot of things that you watch and just find really difficult to follow because you just think in a different way, I think.
Yeah, because I'm trying to get as much as possible out of it as I can. It's not because I don't understand.
Or maybe do that on a second watching.
I think with this film in particular as well, there are ways of constructing films that kind of deliberately leave you in the dark for a certain amount of time, because that whole kind of wondering about what's going on, that mystery aspect is a part of how you play with the audience.
Yeah, I've heard, I think, a lot of people saying that about Inception. Yeah,
well, with Tenet, literally until about halfway through, I was like, I've got a lot better at that whole kind of... See, I used to get frustrated by not knowing what was going on, but as I've watched more and more over the years...
The point of some films.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I've come more to accept that it's okay to sometimes watch an entire film without knowing really what's going on.
I imagine, you watch, detective drama, and they're like, oh, who's the killer then? If it's not this person.
Yeah, that's what a whodunit is.
Yeah, but that you don't understand the trope of you're not supposed to know until the end.
Yeah, but it doesn't stop me trying to figure it out. That's the fun of that's how a whodunit works. You're supposed to be trying to figure out who did it all the way through. Is it because you don't like it when I speak when there's a program on?
Yeah, most of the time.
You don't like it when I think... I don't like
it when you speak in general.
You don't like it when I think out loud.
Yeah, it's annoying most of the time because I kind of...
Is that why you interrupt me lots when we're doing podcasts?
Yeah.
Is this the bit where we now go into criticising each other?
Fuck off.
We're doing criticism. You said... When we were planning this podcast, you said you're going to sit there and criticise me for an hour, and then I'm going to sit there and criticise you for an hour.
Yeah, well, I hoped... No, it's because we did the news for about an hour normally.
It doesn't have to turn into a kind of a... I don't really want to say it. A pissing contest, I suppose, is... I don't know... Sometimes we get into this kind of to and fro, this back and forth in conversation where it's almost like a competition. One of us has to kind of come out better for the audience. Do you know what I mean? It's quite a competitive kind of
showbiz,
criticising each other.
Yeah. Well, I have to be better than you because if I'm not, then I'm shit.
Hey, do you know what? Do you know what I thought earlier on as well? And I know this happens in life, in real life. I was going to say, but when we were trying to work out the menus on the TV for the settings and stuff like that, and you were trying to help me out with that, and I just wouldn't let you take the remote and show me how it was done, would I?
Well, it's just, I think
you clearly had you could see how it worked on the screen, and I was trying to figure it out.
Well, I could see it said settings there, but I think
it wasn't clear to me that it was like a rotary menu.
Well, I saw that after wanting to have the remote just to sort of toy around with it to go into a couple of menus, see what it might be. But
I think my point is that I was aware afterwards when thinking about it that I really didn't want to give you the opportunity to figure it out and then show me how to do it. Do you know what I mean? There's like
do you not like feeling old?
What?
Do you not like feeling old?
It's nothing to do with feeling old. It's
when you don't know how to operate a TV menu.
No, but I know how to. I know how to configure and build a web server and put together a studio for
but
doing
you've tried.
podcasts and stuff.
You tried to learn about that actively. I'd never seen that before, and I knew how to do it better than you.
Oh.
Well, in general, younger people, I guess, are more adaptive to technology.
Fucking hell. Talk about prejudice.
Well, they are.
That's profiling. That's age profiling.
Is it now?
Yes.
Well, it has evidence behind it.
Well, then so does racial profiling.
No, it doesn't, because it's not based on...
It does, it's just being used in the wrong way.
Well, it's far less insidious. I'm not killing you for not knowing how to operate a remote.
Don't use long words just to win an argument.
Insidious is not a long word.
It is, it's longer than it. What does insidious mean then?
Evil.
Oh, now we're going to get into good and evil debate.
No.
So anyway, suddenly halfway through the film, it all began to make sense, is what I was trying to say.
Well.
Yeah. But
that was a very long-winded segment.
It is. I would like to see Inception again, though. What was
I don't have energy for that.
Oh no, not now. But
No, I just don't generally have the energy for that in general most days.
What do you mean, mental energy? Or?
No, it's just, I can't be asked. It's the sort of thing that's sort of like, it was breaking boundaries when it was released, but it's been copied so many times in tropes now, it's kind of probably feels a bit dated now.
Oh, fucking hell, now I'm going to get all ageist and say, what is it with fucking tropes? Thingy Bob. There was a film... What was the one he did? Christopher Nolan's obviously well known for this sort of style that he kind of does, if you like. His kind of... There's a definite feel to his films, and there's Tenet, there's Inception. There was obviously... He did Dark Knight, didn't he? But there was something before that.
Dunkirk?
Oh, he's done Dunkirk, that was more recently, but there was something before Dark Knight.
I don't know.
I can't remember what it was. But I haven't seen it anyway, and I would like to see it. Whatever it is. Can we look up what Christopher Nolan's
You can't remember half of the things that you want to see.
Yes. Well, I'm like Einstein. You don't carry all this information around in your head because an important fact might fall out.
You're a genius because you can't remember frivolous information.
He wasn't a genius. He was what was he?
Einstein.
It wasn't he like a bookstore clerk or something?
Doesn't mean you're not a genius. He had a genius level IQ, and after that was a very renowned physicist.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that he could remember what films he wanted to watch.
No, but it means that you're pretentious as fuck for thinking that makes you a genius because you can't remember bits of trivia.
You're calling me pretentious?
Yes.
You're such a critic. Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, Christopher Nolan. Yeah. What's he done?
That is not a nice face.
No, it's not. Yeah. Keep going.
Interstellar?
Oh, he did Interstellar, did he?
Apparently.
Inception, Dunkirk. What was before that, though? The Prestige. That's good. Keep going. Memento, Dunkirk, Interstellar, Man of Steel. Is that not a Superman thing?
Did he do Man of Steel? Oh,
I don't know. None of those really ring a bell.
Great. That was a very worthwhile.
I'm just trying to keep it going because you're just insulting me. And it's not entertaining.
Well, is it entertaining just searching up IMDb things to see if you can remember
anything? You bring the content then.
I was.
Mr. Podcast Warrior.
I was.
What were you saying?
Arsehole. Right, criticism.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is criticism. I'm starting the other camera.
Okay.
We can both come out as winners. We don't have to.
I'm not looking to. I'm just looking to have you stop to feeling like you're attacked just by me stating things that just happened.
Yeah, because they're insulting sometimes.
I'm sorry.
Are you, though?
No.
Well, then.
You're a piece of shit.
I sometimes forget you're a teenager.
Do you?
Yeah.
Is that because I'm so mature for my age?
That's not the reason, no.
Is it because you're forgetful and old?
I'm literally, most of the time at the moment, I feel like literally I'm only just beginning to kind of think like an adult. I feel like I'm mature. My maturity level is like round about what I should have been at like 20.
Yeah, well, 20-year-olds nowadays are probably more mature than you were when you were 20.
Yeah, that's kind of along the same lines of what I just said. But they were then as well. It wasn't. I wasn't
necessarily. I feel like the generations have sort of changed to meet new challenges somewhat.
Yeah, but it's not. I wasn't a typical. There were plenty of people my age when I was at college that were planting the seeds of what you might think of as success. That were high flyers. That were doing doing the stuff they should have been.
Success and responsibility are different things.
Yeah, I suppose they're kind of intertwined, though. I mean, you can succeed or fail at meeting your responsibilities.
Yeah, but like, there's plenty of people that should have responsibilities and don't do anything about them, but they're still considered pretty successful.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about now, then?
Well, I mean, do you want to revisit the sort of cancel culture thing?
Why not? If that's something you would like to do, I don't have any better ideas.
Yeah, I saw something recently on sort of, I think it was William Shatner said something about the use of the word cis to mean something negative, because that's basically the only context in which he'd heard it, because it had been people responding to him saying that as something negative, I guess.
I still don't think most people understand
that's
what it means.
Most people don't actually know what it means in the first place, so then they just hear it for the first time and think that it's a criticism when it's just stating an adjective that applies to
something. Unless you actually see it written down, to me the first thing I would think, or the first thing a lot of people would think when they hear that word, is that you're talking about their sister.
It's cisgender, but like, it's a Latin prefix.
I wonder there's the difference between how relevant it is to your kind of generation. I don't know. It's difficult. There's definitely
a relatively new term, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's sort of.
What does it mean? It's Latin, isn't it? You said.
Well, it's essentially someone who's not trans. Someone who's cis or cisgender. I mean, cis just means the same side of.
See, to me, that does have connotations along a similar line of the term atheist. in that why define somebody as the thing that they're not?
Well, it's not. Cisgender is a specific word for someone who's not trans, but it means...
Yeah, but that's what I mean. You're defining somebody as what they're not, then.
Well, it's not, though, because then you would refer to them as non-trans. The idea is that you're referring to them by a different word that isn't just not trans. Not trans would be an accurate description of someone who is cis, but I guess it's someone who matches the gender that they were assigned at birth.
Right, okay.
But it's sort of... It is helpful to have a specific word, cis, short for cisgender, to mean that.
Okay.
I mean, it's not relevant in every conversation, but
no, there'll be a lot of people who don't even kind of think about it because it's not. When it's not an issue to someone, it's not.
Yeah, most people don't interact with trans people on a regular basis.
It's not something people think about. So, or a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah, but the world's changing, and
why? How did it come up with William Shatner then? I'm interested to.
Well, basically, I'll pull up the video I saw on it. Just it's relatively short and not like Philosophy Tube relatively short. Actually, relatively short, like under 10 minutes, I think.
William Shatner intrigues me. I can't decide whether he's a knob or a genius, and I think he's both, and I think he plays up to that.
Where is it? Yeah.
Pardon me.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, it might actually be a bit longer than I thought it was. There may have been something else that I saw of it.
I'm trying to remember which.
No. So, do you mind if I play this?
No, we will take a short video break. And what is it we're watching before we do this?
How good celebrities turn transphobic.
This is on the Jessie Gender channel.
Yeah, it's a relatively small channel. I mean, much bigger than ours, but yeah. You taking much with that?
Yeah. I just. This is one of the reasons why I try to sort of not get involved on social media because it's just a shit show.
I get the sort of, I guess, drive of the video was, although in particular is about some things William Shatner had said about, in particular, the term cis, which is why we were discussing that, and that could be harmful to trans people, but that it's not necessarily intentionally that he's done that, but because of the nature of social media where there's thousands of people that will see those things and
I think
possibly thousands of responses to that.
One thing that did occur to me while we were watching that was that I think there's a generational difference which has parallels in that where today's generation are and I'll move on to that in a minute. Sorry, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. Where the gender issues are now is a very similar point to where sexuality was when I was your age. And I didn't really, I was one of those people that fit into the heterosexual category like a glove, like fitting into the cisgender thing like a glove. So it doesn't really seem to make a big deal to me. And I wonder whether or not older people would have felt more slurred, although social media wasn't around then, so it's probably not as much of a problem. But being labelled as straight, would they have found that as more of an insult or an attack when it's not? It doesn't seem to be relevant.
Possibly something that's more become. I mean, I wasn't alive in the time period that I think you're talking about, but I think it's possibly something that's come about more due to the advent of social media.
But let me just qualify what I'm saying in that there is, I think, wrongly a tendency, or there was then and there is now in a similar way, wrongly a tendency for straight people in that situation to think of themselves as normal, and cisgender now to think of themselves as normal. So it's almost like because of that they don't see a need to be labelled, because it's like the labels are for the people that don't fit the norm. Does that make sense? That's how I see.
Yeah.
So I think perhaps bearing that in mind as perhaps the place they're coming from, once they see people start to label them, then it perhaps feels as though it is a negative term, because it's like to them it's not a necessary thing.
Perhaps portrays how they might look at, in the case that you mentioned, how they looked at gay people before, even if they weren't openly saying that once someone applies a label to them based on their sexuality, that's a negative thing.
But it's interesting to see how far you can take that in terms of what... I mean, I said there that, straight people saw themselves as the norm and cisgender seeing themselves as the norm now. How far can you take that? Like what... because obviously there's the race thing and there's the age thing that is a big issue. Well, I guess so normal, what's the most normal that society thinks of as a person now?
I guess age is a little bit different because, unless you die prematurely, everyone gets old.
You say that, but I mean, referring to what they were saying of like cis and other labels being just labels, that they're not necessarily meant as an insult, it's just a recognition of what somebody is. But when you've called me old earlier on, it was definitely meant as an insult.
I guess that's in the sort of context of that you see it as insulting. I don't know. But
well, it wasn't meant as a compliment, was it?
No, but it's sort of, I guess, a tendency.
You were criticising my inability to follow plots as you see it.
I mean, that wasn't necessarily of being old. I think you're just a bit all over the place sometimes, just as a person, regardless of your age.
But but you did use the label old as a reason for why you think that I can't follow plots. And there are times when you call me, you say I'm so old, and I know it's meant in jest, I'm
but it's sort of the proportion to using that as an insult would be different to like punching down with that, because sort of older people in
teasing rather than
it's sort of that punching up, as in I might make fun of straight people, usually with other gay people. But that's not saying that I think that they're inherently bad people.
It's an interesting one to think about that, though, because...
But it has less of a harmful effect because they're sort of in this situation where they're generally valued more than gay people.
It's an interesting one because... And I think... I'm not sure whether I've necessarily been in a situation where... I possibly have, but... I've been in a situation where there have been more gay people around me than straight, and I wouldn't say that necessarily they've been taking the piss, but almost in a teasing kind of way, just kind of recognizing my straightness, if you like. But what I'm trying to get towards is, do you think it's more acceptable for a group of gay people to not ridicule, but to tease or make fun of straight people than for a group of straight people to make fun of gay people?
Yeah, I would say.
You think it's more acceptable?
Yeah, because the end result and the intention, I think, are usually different. And the different history there of... With gay people, it's likely because not necessarily they've been hurt by the specific straight people that they're making fun of, but they've been hurt by straight people in their life, or the sort of society that they live in that values them less than straight people because of their sexuality.
Right, so it's not the relevant. So the relevant thing,
it's sort of cathartic, I guess.
That's a different issue, because that's how it benefits the people that are bestowing the treatment, if you like.
It's usually when it's sort of in a joking way. I've usually seen it in circles where most of the people are gay or don't really care if they're being made fun of for being straight.
So I suppose what I'm trying to say is the context is more of an important thing.
Yeah, well, I think if you're going to just take...
Because that kind of, to me, feels a bit like, and this is not a criticism, this is what I think of as an observation, it seems like it's almost saying, well, what they're doing is wrong, but it's understandable in the circumstances.
Well, it's sort of in the context, it has a lot less negative consequences, I guess. Like, if someone makes a joke about gay people that's, like, deriding them, making fun of them, who is a straight person, like, it's a little bit different if it's a gay person making fun of other gay people.
Should it be, though?
Well, yeah, because there's the understanding of those contexts in a way that they can be sensitive to it and have knowledge of it.
Like, yeah, the kind of the use of the N-word about it being okay for black people to do that to each other.
That's another different thing, but
yeah, but it's a similar kind of idea, isn't it? That because you're gay, you might be able to.
I mean, it's got slightly different contexts around it, but I guess the most similar would be the word faggot for gay people. That's not a word that straight people can't say in that, where there's like a taboo against saying it, but using it in a derogatory way.
I'm trying to identify with it myself by thinking of a musician taking the piss out of another musician. Like, I could see if I saw a friend of mine being very emotionally moved by a piece of music, I feel as though I would have more of a right to tease them about it because I completely understood and they know that I understand what they're feeling.
That might be a good way to think about it, actually, because there's quite a lot of, in the orchestral setting, of sort of ribbing other instruments for various things. Like, there's an age-old thing about
viola players take the piss out of anyone else.
Well, that's the thing. It's sort of, and then people make jokes about the triangle, but then in reality, percussionists play much more than the triangle.
I've not heard.
There's
actually a great. Have you seen the document?
I guess
there's a PDF online somewhere, like orchestral jokes.
The point I was making was like someone else in the orchestra, like, making fun of the violas or the percussionists would be a bit different to a non-musician going, oh, well, that doesn't take any skill to play, because they don't really understand the actual context of that. And I think there's an understanding between musicians that both of you are musicians and legitimately.
I suppose there's a danger that there's a level of protection there. If you know the person who is ridiculing or teasing or making fun of you understands your position, then you're far more likely to assume that they're not intending it with malice.
Yeah, well, there's
because they understand you.
There's the understanding of the context itself, which makes it easier to make jokes, which is why you get a lot of comedians that are in minorities that do quite well, because they can make jokes about things that if there was just some random straight white dude that went up there and didn't actually know much about those subjects, like, the jokes would feel very uncomfortable, even if they were the same jokes, maybe.
So really, someone like J.K. Rowling could do with a successful it's difficult, isn't it? When you get to be that successful, to have somebody who is on the same
well,
wavelength as
the
you.
point is sort of with people with like really big platforms is that the response of thousands of people in a reply, while it might have a big personal effect on her, where she like has a negative response to that, it's not going to have much influence outside of people who actually read those replies. Yeah, I think it's a. I mean, not
unless it
everyone know
makes
about,
the
but
general media. I mean,
Yeah, but the
that's
thing
been
that-
a quite widely known issue that's happened with J.K. Rowling.
yeah, but only because like no one reply would have received much publicity.
Right. Yeah.
But
she can make the news
her
with
own
one comment.
Yeah, her own comment has reached much more people than even the people that saw the tweets originally.
Yeah.
Well, like I didn't even actually see the tweets from her account.
But I think that's
I've
what I
seen
meant
it
when I said
from other media.
Social media is just fucking. It's taken on a life of its own, hasn't it? It's
Well, that's just how people work. It's sort of an artifact of people having massive platforms.
The thing is that back in my day, celebrities were behind a wall of public relations, if you like, where if somebody that famous and that successful had said something like that, their PR team would have made sure it never made it past them. Whereas now they can just get online in the middle of the night and say whatever they want.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of people not understanding how much influence their words have.
And I was going to say,
and
they don't
how
live
much
in
damage they can do.
I was going to say that, that is a sensible precaution to have around you, to have a PR team to kind of vet what goes out to the world, because they don't live in the real world. But who am I to say that their world isn't real?
Well, it's a different world to what the majority of people on the internet would be used to.
But I do
the
like
world of someone who's
maybe
a billionaire.
I do completely agree with that. What's their name? Jesse.
I think their channel name's Jesse Gender, but right. I assume their last name isn't actually Gender.
I do completely agree with them on the best way to deal with it is to just walk away and vent with your friends.
Yeah, well,
I
think that's what most people have sort of. I mean, it's what we're doing now, I guess.
Even to the point where
it's not constructive, I guess, to.
Well, not.
The
other thing as well is, at the end of the day, yes, it affects lots of people, but at the end of the day, it's their problem. It's William Shatner's problem and J.K. Rowling's problem, what their attitudes are.
They're fine, really. I mean, sure, a bunch of people are mad at them, but like the trans people that they've said stuff that's hurt are way more affected by their words than they'll probably be. And it will affect far more people.
Only the ones that are listening to them.
No, because other people, transphobes, will listen to them and use that as ammunition. J.K. Rowling's own words were used to justify a transphobic law.
I think the thing that I have a problem with is the use of the term phobia, because I find it misleading. Because a phobia is a fear.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
I don't, because I think what they're suffering from isn't fear, it's misunderstanding, it's non-understanding, and I think not understanding something is different from being afraid of it.
They're often one and the same.
But they're not. There is a difference.
Yeah, but it's how that manifests that matters there.
Yeah.
Like you can not have an understanding of something, like I would say my understanding of football strategy isn't great, but I don't really rail against it as some
I don't agree with
thing.
I don't agree with some of the things that they say, people who are in the spotlight, but I mean, fucking hell, what a responsibility to have on your shoulders all the time. I mean, you say they're okay, but it's like
They have a big responsibility, but what actually happens to them that's material? Sure, they get a bunch of criticism and they might care about that themselves, but like, are they financially affected? Does anyone actually like?
What I'm
attack
interested
them
to know
in
is,
any material way?
and please, anyone who's listening who this does affect, please don't see this as an insult. I'm genuinely interested to know what harm negative comments about. I mean, for instance, if somebody slags off a musician or somebody from Yorkshire in the public eye, I don't see that it harms me. I just think, oh, fuck you, and walk away. But
But they're not criticising all people from Yorkshire or all musicians when they say that.
Okay, so what?
I mean, I'm not saying that William Shatner was. In that case, at least so far, I don't think he genuinely has any ill will towards trans people, but his words unintentionally, I think, have hurt some trans people.
I think it's difficult, obviously, when it's such a social media subject. If you're that famous, you should not do social media personally.
Well, you should probably run it past people. Yeah,
you should have a public account and maybe just have a. If you really want to do it yourself, have a hidden account that's not named after you, because at the end of the day, you can say the slightest thing and it will be picked up on. Because of who you are. If you want to say stuff that you can not worry about the consequences of, then don't say it under your name, because your name is the power, isn't it? It's not the. I mean, like if William Shatner had said those things as, I don't know, Peter Smith.
Yeah, well, that's the point. It's the fact that it reaches so many people, because I've seen far worse stuff from random people in replies, but like they'll have 5 followers roughly. It's like it doesn't really.
I mean, I get that kind of
have an effect.
When I say things about how, and I do mean it. When these people that are so famous and have so much money and are so successful, okay, it's not the same issues, but they have a fucking huge weight on their shoulders to deal with every single fucking day. That we might see it as privilege and stuff, but everybody's got hard shit to deal with, and theirs isn't certainly going to be any lighter. Yes, they've got loads of money, but I mean, in a capitalist society, that might, if you're a capitalist, that might carry weight. But
it does carry weight regardless of what you think about it.
I don't think being ultra famous and having millions of pounds would make me happy.
I'm not saying that would make you happy, but it makes you
able
to absolve yourself of material consequences.
But material, what is a material consequence? What do you mean by that?
Well, like that would financially hurt you, that your own personal safety might be at risk, or that you might not have somewhere to live, like a lot of trans people.
Yeah, but the thing is that brings us right back to the argument about politics. And in actual fact, it only harms people because of capitalism. If we lived in a socialist society, it wouldn't actually harm people.
Yeah, I'm not sure how celebrity, like social capital, would work in that situation, because take Warren Buffett. He's a very rich guy, I think in like the top 10 richest people, but most people I don't think actually know who he is. Like, do you know who he is?
No.
Very rich guy. I think he owned like Zara or something.
Right.
He's one of the most powerful people in the world, but he's relatively anonymous because he doesn't really like the public.
You can
eye.
be ultra rich and just not be known, can't you?
Yeah, so there's a difference there between social capital, whereas William Shatner's not a billionaire. I assume he's a multimillionaire. I don't actually know his net worth.
Well, I'm assuming that the material damage isn't the only thing then, because if you can impart social damage.
Well, yeah, then there's that. It's sort of that I have seen personally that people have used that these celebrities have said something that they agree with as some sort of justification for they're actually often worse beliefs than what the celebrity actually said.
The stupid thing is, I mean, like, I don't know if it's been on this podcast that I've said it, but me and Mum went to see William Shatner live. It was right at the beginning of lockdown. It was in March, down in Glasgow. An evening with William Shatner. We watched The Wrath of Khan, and then he came on and had a chat session with some famous Scottish rugby player that I'd never heard of. But I was just, the whole experience was weird for me, because I mean, like, you know, you walk in and there's a stand selling T-shirts with William Shatner on the front and the phrase "What would William Shatner do?" And you've got like this kind of, I don't know. He just sounded like your embarrassing old granddad. And the thing was, he knew that he did, and he was playing up to that. It was almost like he was kind of making money out of being senile and old and cliched. So it's almost like, I mean, if what he was saying on Twitter was on stage, it would almost be part of the character he's playing. He's almost like a caricature, and he plays up to that.
But like, again, with that, I think that's because a lot of people only hear these terms where they're relevant to oppressive systems.
Yeah.
So like, that we're white probably isn't relevant to us most of the time because it's never made an issue for us. However, it's an issue in comparison to what black people might experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really difficult one situation for me, talking about black people, because
we don't.
You shy away, like inside, you shy away from using the word black because you've heard it used in such negative ways in the past. And it's like, you know, you don't need a new term. It's just, you just need a new way of people to use it in a new way. You know, I mean, like, it's not the word itself, it's how it's used and what it's put with.
Yeah, well, it's like the difference between the word Jew and Jew.
Yeah.
Different things.
But I mean, it's difficult for me to, I don't want to kind of say anything offensive, but I need to give an example of something. I'm gonna switch terms because I feel uncomfortable saying, but if somebody said to me, if somebody, say, of a different ethnicity said to me, oh, you're white, you're a white person, I wouldn't find that offensive. But if they called me a white bastard, then it's that context, it's how you use it and what it's with. Yeah, I mean, the tone of voice is important as well. But you know what I mean? It's kind of, it's intention. I mean, and a lot of it's about miscommunication.
Because, you are a bastard, the fact that you're white doesn't have much to do with it.
Well, you're a cunt, but there's nothing I can do about that either.
I was just being literal.
So was I.
That was my impression of a cunt.
Something smells fishy.
Do cunts smell fishy?
Where the fuck did that go? Anyway, I don't know what this podcast has been.
It's been a journey.
Yeah,
but I get what you mean. Like, you're a little bit uncomfortable because it's sort of that thing of like, you don't know the necessary. Well, while you do know some things, you can't possibly know what black people experience. Because can
I bring up a situation that I'm not quite sure why or how anyone I'm not quite sure whether or not any offence was caused to anyone in this particular situation. Okay, we're going to call it a theoretical situation. Okay, so
that absolves all.
I was out on a night out, like drinking and, you know, having a meal with a group of friends, some of which were female, one or two of which were male. And there was discussion among some of the females as to whether or not one of these males was gay. And they were saying to me, do you know if he's gay? And like, it was very much kind of whispering, trying not to kind of, because they had their suspicions that he might be gay, but they didn't know. And they were asking if I knew. And I just said, well, why don't you just ask him? And they were like, no, we don't want to. You don't want to ask him. I was like, no, don't be daft. And I turned around and I said to him, are you gay? Just out of interest, like, and they were like, oh my God, you can't ask him that. And it's like, I don't know whether or not. I mean, his response to it was, what difference would it make any difference if I was, like, kind of? And I don't know if anyone caused any offence there. For me, I didn't feel maybe that sort of I didn't feel uncomfortable asking him.
Maybe that sort of hush nature of that comes about from, like, I guess some straight people would be insulted if people assumed that they were gay. It's sort of like it insults like fragile masculinity because I
think the way I said it was almost as though like I was almost sort of outing them for feeling uncomfortable asking. I was like, they're just being daft and beating around the bush, but they're wanting to know if you're gay.
Yeah,
it's like I said I don't have a problem with it if you are. It's not a problem. I think the main reason for it was because the guy does. I mean, he's quite effeminate, but he does like tango dancing, and I think they assumed that. But there is that thing. It's like there is an assumption that if you're in the theatre or you're a musician, that there's a much higher statistical likelihood that you will be gay.
I think that's because, like, I guess it's sort of, if you're gay, you've already sort of crossed that threshold where, like, you sort of renounce that restricting prison of masculinity, I guess.
I think
of being trapped within that one definition of you.
And I think this has happened to me in a more uncomfortable way, is that you don't want to intentionally cause anyone offence or insult anyone or make them feel uncomfortable. And if you don't see yourself as having an issue with something, you don't see any reason why you shouldn't discuss it openly. Now, I remember being outside a nightclub and there was a black guy wearing shades outside. And just the way that you do when you're gathering outside a nightclub waiting for taxis and stuff, you just kind of talk to anyone and anyone because you're all pissed anyway. And I just made a comment about how the guy looked really gangster with his shades on. And he took major offence at that, and I apologised because I could see where he was coming from, and I was really profusely apologetic about it because he thought I was being racist by calling him gangster. Sort of, I actually meant it as a compliment because it was almost like,
well, it's sort of been
you look really cool, sort of thing,
glamorized by various dramas and pieces of media, and it's like there is a sort of criminal actual real association there.
Yeah,
that black people have been legitimately assumed as and been treated differently by police for.
But I think there's a double assumption going on, because in the opposite direction, he was just probably assuming that I saw that as a negative trait, whereas actually I kind of respect people that have that kind of bad look, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
I suppose the danger is you don't want to go saying something like that to somebody that you don't know.
Yeah,
because
it's the sort of thing.
To somebody who I know can kind of understand where I'm coming from. That might be a safe thing to say, but
like a different stranger saying you look like a gangster might have different intentions. They don't know that.
Yeah. I suppose that's the difficulty when you've been drinking. You don't make those judgments, do you?
But I think it's the sort of thing that's sort of like, well, nothing happened. I assumed that was that untoward afterwards.
No, I mean his friend sort of calmed the situation down. We didn't come to an agreement, but I think he just realised that all parties had drunk quite a bit and encouraged us to go our separate ways, kind of thing. But I mean, misunderstandings happen like that when you're really drunk, don't they? It's just like you just got to be careful who you say things to.
Yeah,
even if they're not intended as insults, But it's just sometimes you just want to get on with your life and just kind of not. Criticism's a difficult one, isn't it? There is this kind of the cancel culture thing, but there's this whole thing about taking offence now as well.
When you say now,
well, it's a lot more than it used to be, I think.
There's probably more that it's
because of it being online so much, and
well, I guess people are now experiencing more consequences than they would have done in the past for that sort of thing. I mean, it's not necessarily,
I think,
related to intention there, but
certainly from what I remember of the 70s and early 80s, I think people were far too busy getting on with the business of surviving financially and do you know what I mean? It was like if somebody said something offensive to you, it was a trivial matter then, because there were real struggles to kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say really. People focused more on just getting by. Do you know what I mean?
That's not really a good thing though, is it?
No, but I think now maybe the consequences are a lot more widespread because it's a global kind of community, isn't it? It's kind of you can't say anything. Yeah, people see this thing about if you make a comment online about it being something
I think with a lot of those,
that people treat it as though you're saying something rather than actually putting it to print.
I think with a lot of those sort of stories where there's been an example of somebody said something and then suddenly this thing happened to them and it's like, oh, it's terrible and we can't say anything anymore. They often obfuscate what they actually said, and that they said a lot of things before then that suggested that there was malintention there. Like, for example, going back to an incident in our family back last year, when someone made an offhand comment, but because of what they'd said before,
but
it was perceived very differently to how it might be if, say, I or another person said it.
Yeah. What I think I meant about how things were when somebody said something offensive back then, it is that global nature, it is that constantly connected thing of the internet, that back then if somebody said something offensive to you, you might be upset at the time, but then you'd go your separate ways and you would get on with the rest of your life, and until you met that person again, it wouldn't be an issue.
I guess because
whereas now, like you're not isolated.
It's typed out and time stamped, like it's permanent there. You can go back to it. The other thing is you're constantly read exactly what they said.
The other thing is you're constantly in the global community. You don't get to walk away and lead your own private life.
Just turn off notifications if you want to.
You can, but how many of us have full voluntary control over that? Like, to the point of...
You don't have to use these social media platforms if you don't like...
No, and smokers don't have to smoke.
I guess, but like...
And, you know, it's...
You wouldn't say that...
It's a constant temptation. It's a constant kind of... It is a habit, is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, but there are positive parts of it as well.
Yeah.
But it's sort of... I guess criticism in general is not taking someone as criticising you as being that they're offended and they think that you're an awful person, but to listen to what they have to say and...
Do you get any education
learn about it.
Do you get any educational training at school on the use of the internet and social media?
We do kind of, but it's really bad. Like, it's just, oh, don't post anything you wouldn't want your grandma to see. And it's like, well, 90% of what I post, like, I mean, I don't know. I've kind of laxed a bit on how I talk around my grandparents now. So, like, I'll swear in front of them and be like, yeah, fine. But, like,
I mean, I don't know what the situation's going to be.
Yeah, they've sort of
for your generation, but I do feel a bit.
I guess the point is, my generation probably understands how to use it more responsibly than the people that were trying to teach us about it.
I think the thing about criticism and taking criticism is that everyone has their own sore points, if you like. And I think for my generation, one of the biggest things that we don't get enough credit for is that we're navigating a completely different world from when we were kids.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, to the point where until I was in my late 20s, until I was about 30, there was no internet for me. You know, life was what happens to you on a daily basis. There was no, I didn't even have a computer until I was 29.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know, until that point, life was, if you try to think of everything outside of being online in your life, that was everything to me for almost the first 3 decades of my life. So what I'm trying to say is the difficult part sometimes taking criticism, certainly from younger people who've had the internet and the global online community and the 24 hours a day news coverage and that, you know, it's fucking, I completely get that it's overwhelming and difficult to deal with, but at the same time, sometimes I feel a bit unfairly criticised when most of my life, because I'm not even 50 yet, but like still for the majority of my life, the internet wasn't around. And it's
not in a widely
the World Wide Web wasn't around. And now it rules the world, you know, everything happens online.
Yeah, like, I mean,
I'm not saying that my world
Yeah.
was any better. I'm just saying that it was completely different, and I think we should get some fucking credit for that. we've fucked it up as well. But you're going to face the same challenge, not the same challenges. You're going to face
but like at the same time,
challenges.
I mean, I don't
just as
know
much.
exactly how old Tim Berners-Lee was, but he's probably of a similar age bracket to you, roughly, and he created the World Wide Web supposedly.
Yeah. It is a bit of a Frankenstein thing. It's kind of we are responsible for this happening. Our generation created it.
Really.
Yeah. You were born into the world that we created.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. And you know, well, it's a difficult one. I mean, I can't, you know, most of my 20s I was out of my face, so I can't really claim any credit for creating any of what came along, but
well, aside from me.
Yeah, well, maybe that's a good point to end the podcast. I don't know. We do all right.
I don't know what this episode really been. It's cool though.
Maybe we should invite some critical reviews. Send in your criticism and we'll put it in the bin.
Jesus Christ, you've got 67 episodes of this now.
I know, and we're over 2 hours.
Well over. I mean, that won't be in the edit because hopefully you'll cut out the big gap with the video in it.
Oh, well, yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Let's just wind it up because I want to watch some funny stuff and music. I mean, it always ends up with the same thing. It's like, let's wind it up because I want to watch some.
Because you're tired of my shit.
No, I just kind of, I want to stop
thinking.
Yeah. Let's go and watch Limmy's whatever it is. What's it called?
Lemmy Show.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Give it.
the Scottish comedian that just does the most bizarre sketches where
If you give it
it's
a
not
go.
really actually funny, but it just sort of,
If you
by
do,
it not being funny, it's also funny.
if you do give it a go, give it a good 2 or 3 episodes before you decide whether or not you think it's good, because you'll spend the first episode or 2 trying to work out what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, but the sort of point of it is that you're not supposed to know. It's sort of absurdist.
Yeah. But by the time I think we got to the 3rd episode I've seen, I was like, I'd accepted that. It was like, this is just totally insane. And it's just like...
Well, it's sort of...
It's a bit like sort of playground humour to me.
the vibe of Monty Python, kind of.
Yeah. Because we used to say things like, when I was at college, when we were on drugs and stuff, we used to say, I wonder what would happen if... And then come up with this like really bizarre random scenario. But he kind of enacts those as sketches.
I swear
doesn't
he writes half of that stuff on acid. Anyway, shall we wrap up?
Yes, let's, because I've run out of beer a long time ago and I need more.
Alky. Now he's gone and shat himself again, Craig.
Best end the podcast, eh?
Anyway, I've been Fireball.
I've been the Orbiter.
And this has been Breaking Bollocks, episode 67.
Shit, wasn't it?
Criticism. Were you just saying that as just like your general view of the episode, or to like make a play on the actual episode?
Yes.
Great.
Well, you'd have to decide that for yourself when you were writing the review, and you really, it's like, that's what critics' jobs are.
Yeah, give us 5 stars on iTunes and give us a thumbs up in the comments.
Are they doing this?
Like and subscribe.
Is this genius comedy, or are
Fuck
they
off.
actually a couple of knob ends?
It's us telling you to go away now and do something better with your time.
This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast Network.